I just do whatever I feel on stage, you know. As I always did that.
Are you going to keep making films?
I hope to.
Something wild just happened, and it has everyone talking. Chewie Thompson, the man now confirmed as Elvis Presley's biological grandson, just revealed something crazy about Elvis, and then walked off without a word. At a live fan event, the interviewer asked Chewie, "Is Elvis really dead?" Chewie didn't flinch. He stared for a second, shook his head, and then slowly turned, walking away silently, 1 inch at a time. No answer, no denial, just that look in his eyes. People were stunned. The clip went viral instantly, and fans started connecting the dots. Now, the Presley estate has responded. DNA has confirmed the truth, and the story is exploding across headlines. Chewie's silence said everything, but the secrets he's now beginning to reveal, those may change Elvis history forever. This isn't a joke anymore. This is bloodline. This is legacy. And it's just getting started. Documents surfaced in a Tennessee courthouse, buried in plain sight, that revealed a trail of legal correspondence, quiet settlements, and an old, sealed birth certificate. It took just one journalist to start pulling on the thread, and what unraveled was nothing short of explosive. Handwritten letters between Priscilla Presley and Chewie's mother. A now viral audio tape of Chewie speaking to an anonymous Presley family lawyer, and the DNA test that left no doubt 97% match. But that wasn't what shocked people the most. It was how Chewie handled the truth. During a now famous podcast interview, the host leaned in and asked, almost sarcastically, "So, is Elvis dead?" Chewie didn't respond with words. He didn't laugh. He didn't flinch. He just stood up, smiled, and walked off the set. That moment lit up the internet. Fans analyzed his expression. Experts broke down his body language. Forums flooded with conspiracy theories. But what's not up for debate anymore is the bloodline. Chewie isn't just a Presley fan, he's the heir. And when you look at him now, it's impossible not to see the king of rock and roll staring back. Even Chewie's Instagram began shifting. He posted a shadowy photo of Graceland's gates with the caption, "Coming home soon." The Presley estate has remained silent. Priscilla hasn't denied it. And the rest of the world? They're watching, waiting, wondering what Chewie's next move will be. Because if this grandson has even a fraction of Elvis's talent, music history might be on the verge of rewriting itself. And Chewie? He's not running from it. He's leaning in with every strut, every post, and every glass of water, because now that the truth is out, there's no going back. Long before the headlines, before DNA tests and viral clips, Chewie Thompson was already living with a secret. For years, he'd been piecing together fragments of a family history he couldn't fully explain. Photographs without captions, stories that stopped mid-sentence, a name whispered but never written down. Friends say Chewie always had a sense of carrying something bigger than himself, even when he was joking on camera about spilling water or walking inches. Behind the scenes, Chewie was quietly investigating. He reached out to a private genealogist in Memphis in 2023, months before his challenge went viral. That genealogist later revealed that Chewie had provided blood samples, old family letters, and even a guitar pick engraved with the initials EP, passed down from his mother. It was a quiet search for answers that led him to some of Elvis Presley's closest surviving associates. And then came Graceland. Before the story broke, Chewie visited as just another tourist, blending in with the crowds. But security footage from that day, later leaked online, showed Chewie stopping in front of Elvis's private upstairs staircase, closing his eyes, and touching the banister like someone returning home. Fans who were there described the moment as eerily calm, like Chewie knew something no one else did. When the DNA confirmation went public, many of these old stories resurfaced. People started connecting his earliest Instagram posts, a grainy picture of a young Elvis, a caption about walking back to where it began, and realized Chewie had been hinting at the truth all along. Through it all, Chewie stayed quiet. No angry tweets, no grand claims, just walking, drinking from his special glass of water, losing weight, rebuilding his life, and waiting for the day when the truth would stop being a rumor and start being a headline. That day came, and now, the man the world once called a social media oddity isn't just Elvis Presley's grandson. He's the living bridge between a legend's past and a future that's still being written. For weeks after the DNA news began circulating in fan forums and small media circles, Chewy Thompson said nothing. He kept filming his daily walking challenge. He kept drinking from his special glass of water. But then, on the 212th day of his 1-inch per follower walk, the same day he hit 1 million total inches walked, he posted a simple black and white reel on Instagram. It showed him sitting on the hood of a vintage Cadillac, the sun setting behind him, with no flashy editing, no music, no water-spilling comedy, just one sentence in the caption, "He's my grandfather." That's all I'll say for now. The post exploded. Fans, skeptics, journalists, everyone wanted more. Within 24 hours, it racked up over 30 million views, and Chewy went from internet oddity to the most talked-about man in America. Reporters tried to get him on every major talk show. TMZ camped outside his apartment. Paparazzi chased him mid-walk. But Chewy didn't play into the frenzy. He refused every interview, every appearance. The only update came a week later. A clip of him walking in front of Graceland, not saying a word, wearing a t-shirt that read, "Blood Don't Lie." That clip was reshared by someone unexpected, Lisa Marie Presley's eldest daughter, who simply posted it with a broken heart emoji. Rumors swirled that she had privately reached out to Chewy for a meeting. That post, combined with quiet movements from the Presley estate, including suddenly pulling old DNA challenge filings from probate court, seemed to suggest that the family knew, and perhaps had known all along. Elvis Presley Enterprises issued a vague statement a few days later. No names, no confirmations, just a line that read, "Graceland has always welcomed family, and it always will." For Chewy, that was enough. He didn't need an invite. He didn't need a press conference. He just needed the world to hear the truth, not from a lawyer or a headline, but from his own lips, in his own time. And now that he'd said it, the silence from others was louder than any denial, because when the real heir speaks, even legends listen. Chewy Thompson's connection to Elvis wasn't just something he said, it was something people felt. And nowhere was that more true than in Tupelo, Mississippi, the tiny town where Elvis Presley was born. It had been decades since anyone related to the king had visited that part of the South publicly. The Presley estate kept most public appearances focused on Graceland. Tupelo had become more of a historical footnote. Until Chewy arrived, there was no announcement, no marketing campaign, just a grainy video shot by a local gas station clerk who recognized Chewy walking down Main Street with nothing but a backpack, a bottle of Fiji water, and that signature soft-spoken stare. The clerk called out, "Are you really the grandson?" Chewy didn't answer. He just smiled, walked into the little grocery store next door, and bought a single banana. By the time word spread, crowds had already started forming near the little two-room house where Elvis was born. Elderly fans stood in silence, hands clasped like they were in church. Younger fans followed quietly behind Chewy as he walked through the dirt lot where Elvis once played as a boy. One woman reportedly fainted. Another whispered to a local reporter, "I swear, he walks like him." Inside the museum, Chewy didn't ask for a tour. He didn't want a camera crew. He simply stood in front of Elvis's childhood bed for nearly 20 minutes, staring. Witnesses say he eventually placed a folded note on the frame and walked out without saying a word. The note, which was later found by staff, read, "You built the dream. I'm just walking the inches now. Thank you, Granddad." That single sentence went viral once leaked. People began flocking to Tupelo again, not just to honor Elvis, but to understand Chewy. Overnight, walking the inches became a phrase printed on t-shirts, bumper stickers, even tattoos. It was more than a tribute. It was a movement. What happened in Tupelo wasn't a tourist stop. It was a spiritual return, a full-circle moment. And for those who were there, many say they didn't just witness a viral celebrity walking through town. They swear They saw Elvis walk one more time. Not long after his silent pilgrimage to Tupelo, Chewy Thompson was spotted somewhere no Presley heir had ever been publicly photographed, behind the wrought iron gates of a heavily guarded section of Graceland, just beyond the main estate. This wasn't a place for tourists. This was a part of the property known only to close family and high-level estate staff, the vault. For decades, rumors swirled that Elvis Presley kept personal items locked away in a private vault on the property. Letters, tapes, journals, early recordings, possibly even unreleased film reels. Some said there was a handwritten version of Elvis's will that differed from the public one. Others claimed there were things in that vault that could rewrite music history, or even American history. But no one ever confirmed its existence until now. Chewy, accompanied only by an older man believed to be a longtime Presley confidant, was allowed inside. There were no cameras, no PR statements, just still shots of the thick steel door slowly creaking open, and the faint sound of Chewy saying, "Let me do this alone." He stayed inside for 3 hours. When he emerged, those who saw him described his face as pale and changed. He held a simple manila folder and a single cassette tape in his hands. The security guard on duty tried to ask what he found. Chewy didn't respond, but he handed the folder to a woman standing nearby, reportedly a lifelong Graceland archivist, and simply said, "This needs to be put in the museum. The world deserves to know." To this day, no one has confirmed the contents of that folder, but whispers say it included a personal letter Elvis had written in 1975, addressed to the one who will come next. Handwriting experts have since reviewed it and reportedly authenticated it as Elvis's. The letter supposedly speaks of fear, legacy, and a mysterious reference to the grandson they won't believe until it's time. As for the cassette, Chewy never turned it in. He left Graceland that night, disappeared for 48 hours, and when he returned to social media, he posted nothing but a single black and white photo of Elvis's eyes with the caption, "He spoke, I listened." To fans, that moment confirmed what many already believed. Chewy wasn't chasing the Presley legacy. He was fulfilling it. After his mysterious visit to the Graceland vault and his cryptic online posts, something inside Chewy Thompson began to shift. Those closest to him described it as a quiet transformation, less about fame and more about fulfillment. What no one expected, though, was how deeply his path had begun to mirror the man he descended from. Chewy didn't just carry Elvis Presley's bloodline, he carried his burdens. Whispers began emerging from those around Chewy, friends, assistants, and collaborators, who described eerie moments. Chewy had reportedly begun keeping a dream journal, just like Elvis once did. Some claimed he even spoke of visions, including one where Elvis appeared in a glowing white jumpsuit and whispered, "You've got to finish what I couldn't." That same night, Chewy supposedly played Unchained Melody alone on an old piano, in the exact key Elvis used on his final tour. No one taught him how. He said the melody just came to him, but it wasn't just dreams and music. Chewy began experiencing physical echoes of Elvis's life. He reported a string of insomnia episodes, restless nights that aligned almost exactly with the dates Elvis once recorded personal letters about his own sleeping struggles. On the anniversary of Elvis's death, Chewy reportedly woke up at 2:33 a.m., sweating, saying, "It's too soon," the exact phrase found in a 1976 letter Elvis once wrote about his fear of dying too early. Things got even stranger when Chewy showed interest in numerology, something that had quietly fascinated Elvis. Elvis once considered the number 8 a symbol of infinity, legacy, and rebirth. Chewy? He released a cryptic TikTok that simply said, "8 is the number. Watch the 8th. Everything changes." The video was posted on August 8th. Fans noticed. And what happened on August 8th? That was the day Chewy stopped using the last name Thompson on his Instagram. He simply changed his handle to Chewy Presley. It sent shockwaves through his growing fan base. For years, there had been debates. Was he really related to Elvis? Was it all performance art? A tribute? A gimmick? But on that day, everything changed. He wasn't asking for permission anymore. He wasn't seeking validation. He was claiming what was already his. And in doing so, he didn't just stir fans into a frenzy. He reignited a cultural fire around Elvis Presley's legacy that hadn't burned this brightly in decades. It started as a whisper, then a hashtag, then a global movement. Team Chewy. What began as a fan phrase turned into a full-blown cultural storm. It all ignited after a series of cryptic videos from Chewy Thompson. One where he spilled a glass of water and whispered, "You can't fake blood." Another where he walked past Graceland in total silence. It wasn't a joke anymore. For many, it was confirmation. Elvis had left more behind than we ever knew, and now the world was listening. Fans around the globe began connecting the dots. Longtime Elvis enthusiasts, some who had been preserving the legend for 50 years, said Chewy's movements, his voice, his very presence felt familiar. One woman from Tupelo said watching him was like seeing a ghost with a sense of humor. Others said it felt like Elvis himself was speaking through him, especially when Chewy hummed obscure Presley B-sides that even historians barely remembered. As more footage surfaced, Chewy silently pacing the streets of Memphis, Chewy holding back tears near the Sun Records plaque. Emotions ran wild. Fans debated the meaning of every walk, every glance at the camera. Some believed Chewy was carrying out a mission. Others were convinced he was hiding something enormous in plain sight. And just like that, the movement had momentum. Fans began sharing their own stories. How they grew up with Elvis, how they now see pieces of him in Chewy. One elderly fan even brought a guitar to a Chewy meetup, claiming it had been signed by Elvis in the 70s and begged Chewy to touch it. When he did, the woman fainted from emotion. T-shirts started popping up reading "Bloodline of the King" and "Team Chewy, you can't fake soul." But it wasn't about selling shirts. It was about being part of something that felt like it reached beyond time. Because whether you believed in the DNA or not, the impact was real. For many, Chewy wasn't just a man walking inch by inch. He was the bridge to something long lost, a vessel of rhythm, a mirror of legacy, a living echo. And as the movement grew louder, so did the calls for Chewy to speak on the one question he's always avoided. Is Elvis Presley really gone? It was supposed to be a quiet day. Chewy Thompson had just wrapped one of his signature inch-by-inch walking videos, this one in silence, with soft rain falling on the streets of Tupelo, Mississippi. Fans stood back respectfully, most of them holding water bottles in solidarity, not wanting to interrupt his moment. But one voice broke through the hush. A young man in a vintage Elvis shirt stepped forward and simply asked, "Is your grandfather really dead?" Chewy froze. He looked the man in the eye, lips parted as if to speak, then closed them. A long pause followed. The crowd waited. Phones were lifted. But instead of answering, Chewy turned, slowly, silently, and walked away. That moment exploded across social media. Millions saw it within hours. And suddenly, the world wasn't asking if Chewy was Elvis Presley's grandson. That part had been accepted by fans, by followers, even by several quiet acknowledgments from sources once close to the Presley estate. No, the question now was bigger. Had Chewy just confirmed something darker? Some said his silence was the answer, that the way he looked back, not in denial, not in grief, but as if burdened by a truth he couldn't speak, meant more than words ever could. Old conspiracy theories flared back to life. The Albuquerque Elvis theory, the paramedic testimonies, the altered death certificate rumors, even the photos of an older man seen behind Graceland's gates in the early 2000s were dug up again and re-examined. But now, they had a new lens, Chewy. People began wondering if Chewy had met Elvis, if the king had somehow lived long enough to pass something on, not just blood, but stories, warnings, secrets. Fans began reading meaning into Chewy's silence, analyzing every public moment where someone brought up his grandfather's death and watching for micro-expressions. And Chewy? He said nothing. He just kept walking, filming, drinking from that now iconic special glass of water, leaving breadcrumbs, playing old gospel records, appearing at places Elvis once stayed, never saying why. Fans called it a spiritual breadcrumb trail, but then came the video, the one that stopped everyone cold. Chewy, sitting alone in a dim room, candlelit, no background music, no words, just him holding a worn black and white photo of Elvis, Then, without a word, he nodded once, eyes glistening with emotion, and turned off the camera. It was the closest he'd come to a statement, and to many, it was all they needed. The Presley fire still burns, because this wasn't about proving the old theories anymore. It was about carrying the legacy forward. And Chewie Thompson wasn't doing it through fame-chasing or empty spectacle. He was doing it step by step, inch by inch, on the road his grandfather once walked. Some say he's a messenger. Others say he's a living archive. But everyone agrees on one thing: Chewie Thompson is no longer a rising name. He is a living piece of American music history, and the story is just beginning.